Y'all should have the materials. Everybody can hear me okay? Everything's good. Okay, awesome. Good morning. Let me go ahead and do a share screen. We are going to be talking about farm today. This class has a lot of scripts and dialogues in it, which I won't be reading to all of you, but as with any of these classes, please take the time to go through and read them. And commit them to memory, right? That's the thing about scripts and dialogues is when we meet people, and you guys have heard me tell this story before about going to Toastmasters long time ago. And when I decided that I wanted to teach and speak as part of my career, I was super nervous, talked really fast, right? And so I went to Toastmasters. Someone suggested that. And one of my favorite things about Toastmasters was the impromptu speaking. And so you have this in the beginning, they have the Toastmaster of the evening, and the Toastmaster gets up, does a little talk, and then they will throw a question out, but they don't know, you don't know who's going to be asked, right? So they'll throw the question out and they'll be like, Rick, what do you think about that? And then Rick has to use the word of the day, and you can either answer the question or you can go off on a tangent and say whatever you want. And I remember thinking about that particular part of Toastmasters and how it related to scripts and dialogues and what we do in this industry. And so there's often times, right, Kim, that someone throws something at you and you kind of go, I don't know the answer to that, right? And so when we have scripts and dialogues that we can commit to memory, that helps with those moments where someone says something to you, you get posed with a question. I don't know the answer, but I'm going to be able to roll with it because I've got some kind of a script and dialogue under my belt that helps me convert. Scripts and dialogues also just make you sound professional and polished. We don't have the uhs and ums, right? They used to actually do that too with our group wasn't as bad. There was some Toastmasters that would actually like ring a bell every time you used a pregnant, or not a pregnant pause, but like a crutch word. So an or an or if you had a particular crutch I can't say the word today, crutch word that was your thing, they would count it and they would tell you at the end. They would say, hey, you used X times. And so we didn't do the bell. We were nicer in my group than some other groups. But so scripts and dialogues make us sound polished. We are going to be doing a call night. Oh, hold on, give me a second here. Jan Stevens is trying to join us. Give me a second here. While I'm doing this, we're going to be doing a call night, and that is going to be on right after. Well, it's the same day as the office meeting. What is happening today? Hold on. How do I get this to her? On the 7th, we're going to be doing an all right, here we go. A call night at Arrowhead North from, I think it's 3:30 to 5:30 is the time. You guys could check the I'm sure they're going to be pushing out information about it. Zoom, here we go. At Arrowhead North. And the goal is for you guys to come together and just prospect, right? Prospect and come together, make calls. Make calls to your databases. So put it on your calendar. Arrowhead North, they're going to provide you with some food and some drinks. And so probably some role play that's going to happen beforehand to get you guys all pumped up and ready to do that. When we have hosted call nights before at the office, there's just an energy that happens, right? You can hear people on the phones, people are getting excited. And then at the end, we talk about how many calls did you have? How many appointments did you set? And so those of us that are in the gas meeting or the gas group, we've all been challenged to make 10 calls a day. And so, and we have a group text going, and it's kind of fun. And also there was a day last week when I worked until 4 o'clock and I hadn't got my calls in, and then but I get a ping on my phone that somebody did their 10. So I was like, oh, I can't give up today. I have to push through and do it. Right. So it's been challenging in that regard, especially at 4 o'clock when I've coached all day, and last thing I want to do is keep talking on the phone. So find, go to that and challenge yourself to show up and make calls and be present with the call night, because you'll get something out of it. Right. We've talked a lot about doing things different in this market. So that's something different, right? Is to show up for call night. And then you guys know on the 7th in the morning, we have the office meeting, and that was a panel of your peers that are going to be talking about buyer brokers and how to get buyer broker agreements signed. So make sure you guys show up for that. And let's go ahead. I'm going to do a share screen. Ashley, I will send you the class materials when we're done, and then you can take a peek at those. Okay. So are any of you farming currently? I know Jennifer, Nate farms in Blackstone, but that's kind of not necessarily directly affecting you. Candy, I believe you farm in Pebble Creek. And Roberta, I know you have farmed some, but I don't know that you're necessarily doing it now. So I'm farming in the neighborhood I live in. despite the fact that it's pretty saturated with realtors. But we talked last week about the 8 and 8 campaign. You guys have access to that. It's a campaign that was designed by a Hobbs and Herder, which is a big marketing company out of California. I believe they're out of California. So the 8 and 8 is very specific language designed to kind of fast track a farm, because usually, people will say it takes 18 months to 24 months to get anything going in a farm. And while I don't disagree with that, I think that with Hobbs and Herder, I've already had 2 listing appointments, and I am not even through all 8 of the. I think I'm on 6 or 7 of the 8 and 8. So the verbiage does work. Don't change it, right? Just follow what it says, because Hobbs and Herder knows better than us. They actually sent these postcards out into a neighborhood, and at the end they surveyed the people, and it was a fake realtor. The person didn't exist, and at the end they surveyed the people, and the majority of the people said they would hire this realtor that they didn't know, obviously, because it wasn't a real human being. And so the Hobbs and Herder stuff works. You guys have access to that in Mac Center. You also have access through it from the class materials last week. So we can, I just copy and paste it into my piece that I send out. So we're going to focus in on what are the things that my screen doesn't look right. What are the things that we need to be doing in a farm, right, that will provide results, right? If you look at Nate has been farming from the beginning of time, right? With his stuff. He used to do postcards way back in the day that were these really hideous like orange and teal colors, right? Or peach and teal. But so he believes very strongly. And farming, you guys, is a numbers game. You have to be consistent with it, and your messaging has to be right. And then you have to stay with it and know that it could take 6 months before you get anything. It could take, as some people say, 18 months. And so it's an investment, and it's kind of a long game. I'm going to share with you some what I feel like are kind of inexpensive ways to farm, because not everybody has Nate's budget to be able to go out and spend, thousands of dollars on postcards every month. So the goal here is we want to create more relationships, right? That's what we need. We don't need leads. We need relationships. And so when we think about the farm, we're going to dive into what is that specifically that's creating new relationships. We're obviously going to focus in on buyers and sellers. Client care, hopefully all of you guys are adopting KV Core, or you have some CRM that you can put people into. And then what do we need to have in order to execute a farm? So financial security, right? We talk about this in a lot of the momentum classes, is, looking at a phase 1. If we just started small, you guys, with 250 houses, we're not talking about a large net here. And so if Nate were teaching the class, he would tell you to go for 1,000 homes, but start small. What's in your budget? What's manageable for you? If it's your neighborhood, is it walkable, right? And to me, if it's walkable, we get a lot of other benefits, right? We get exercise, we get vitamins from the sun, right? And so there's other benefits to walking that. So starting small for the purpose of this class of 250 doors. If we mailed out up to 3,000 pieces a year at an average of 50 cents a piece, which that could be, with inflation, might be a little bit more expensive these days. But for the sake of today, in a $1,500 investment, if we only had a 1% conversion, because really, you guys, that's what we're looking at, right? And I don't know about you, but when I get the mail, I go right to the trash can and throw out the stuff that is garbage, right? And so we're only looking for that 1% that, as they're walking from the mailbox to the house, are they thinking about moving, and now they've got your piece, right? Barb Henderson, I don't think she's doing it now, but oh no, I think they still are. She farms in the neighborhood she lives in, and she had shared with me that she went on a listing appointment, and this person had kept a stack of her newsletters and had highlighted the stats, right? He was tracking it and was paying attention. She also had she does a Sudoku puzzle in hers, and there was a mistake in it. And the Sudoku puzzle came right from the Sudoku website, right? But somebody actually reached out and called her and said, hey, there was a mistake in this. And at first she was kind of like, well, how is there a mistake? And I'm like, well, hold on. I go, you're missing the point here. The point is that person picked up the phone and called you. Like, send them a thank you and say, thank you so much for helping me have quality control. They actually reached out. Like, to me, that's a huge win, right? That's an opportunity to create a deeper relationship if you take them a thank you and say, gosh, thank you so much for helping me, right? So mistakes. Now, we don't want to have blatant mistakes and make them all the time, but sometimes a mistake here and there lets the people know that you're human. And if they reach out, even better, right? So that's 3 additional transactions. Obviously, where can we buy real estate for 150,000? Because sign me up all day long, right? So obviously those numbers are a little higher. I think we're hovering around 400,000. So, and if we don't necessarily talk commission in this class, but 3% apples, that would be at 400,000. What is anybody could do that math in their head real quick? It's it's just over $13,000. And if we did that times 3, that's $40,000 additional GCI just from having a farm area. And then as we look into the future years, right, year 2, 3, 4, 5, you can see how that starts to scale, right, and how we start to have market share. And then we want to reinvest 25% of that and grow your doors. So we get into year 2, we're going to get up to 313 doors and continue on until we are leveraging the entire neighborhood, if there's actually 3,500 homes in the area. So farm plan. So obviously going to have a prospect, right? We need to have somebody that is our target that we're going after. We're going to speak about actual geographic areas today. And then what do we need to know? So turnover rate, our solicitation dialogue, move up dialogues. And then we talked about the 8 and 8s, which was in last week's class. And then having neighborhood updates, neighborhood website, and then tracking. We talk about tracking a lot in momentum because what gets measured gets done, right? And so we want to track. It doesn't make any sense to continue doing something over and over again that isn't giving any results, right? So this is an example. This is kind of dated. I'm sure they have the new Remax balloon in there. This is an example of what you can find in Max Center. This was a national campaign that was running. We have current run. What is it right now? Relax. We've done this a million times. I believe is the new campaign that we're doing. And so this is an example of what it looks like on the backside. And when you use these out of Max Center, you cannot edit this stuff, right? And they do that intentionally, Kim, because they don't want you getting in here and thinking, "Ooh, I don't like this verbiage," right? So again, Hobbs and Herter, big marketing company, they know more than we do, so let's not change it. Okay, so why are we going to mail? And if you're following along the materials, this is page 6. So why? So we need because we need leads, right? We need more business. We need more people coming into our funnel, and we need to be able to service more people. What to mail? So I would start with the 8 and 8. Now the 8 and 8 campaign is designed to go out every week. I'm doing it once a month. This neighborhood has a publication that goes out to every single door. It's such a cool thing for $150, you guys. Like it's it makes mathematical sense all day long. Because if I get one sale in here, I'm happy, right? And so it goes out to every door. So what to mail? So I'm doing it once a month, but the 8 and 8 campaign, the way true to form, is designed to go out once a week. So don't jump into that and start say you're going to do it unless you have the budget to do it, because it's not going to do you any good. And again, you're getting one postcard every week for 8 weeks. It's designed to fast track that instead of once a month we're dripping on someone. Those types of activities take longer, right, to generate the business that you want. And so what to mail, the 8 and 8s. And then we'll talk about what to do after you get through the 8 and 8 as well. Where to mail. So we want to have so this is page 6. This part's really important, you guys. Potential turnover rate of 5% or more. Some people say 5 to 7%. And so when we look at the neighborhood, how many of 250 doors, you need to see a minimum of 5% of those homes turning over every year. It's not going to do you any good to farm in a neighborhood where people live there until they die, right? They buy their house and they're there for 20 years or 30 years and they just stay there forever. There are some neighborhoods that are like that. And so we want to make sure we're tracking that. So how many houses sold for the year, and then out of the total doors that are there. We want to make sure that it's conducive to your average sales price that you desire. You know, Nate farms Blackstone, which obviously we all know that's a luxury neighborhood. But to me, I would rather farm an area where there's better turnover. Maybe a neighborhood that's more of a starter home neighborhood. So those people live there for 5 years, they start their family, right? And now they need to move up. And those also are conducive for that price point that turns quickly, right? And so, it's great to farm luxury, but sometimes those can take longer. Yeah, they're bigger paychecks, but we have a smaller pool of buyers to consider. Okay. So that's just my personal opinion. And then that it's not currently dominated by another agent. And so how you check that is you look at the sales, right? If there's 20, 30 sales in the neighborhood, skim through and see if somebody's got the majority of the sales in that neighborhood, then they are dominating it. I'm not saying you can't come in and change it. I'm marketing to this neighborhood because the people who do market, their stuff sucks. I mean, it just does. And so I'm trying to be a little bit of a disruptor in that. Okay. And so looking at that, if they've got 2 or 3 out of 30, probably a fluke, right? If 2, maybe they got a sign call from a property that they sold, right? We want to see that there's a majority of the sales going to that particular agent. If it's your neighborhood, you're going to know if someone's farming because you're getting their mail, right? You're going to know. Okay. And so I'm not going to be here to say that you can't be a disruptor, but you have to do things different, right? You have to do things different. And then how to mail. So starting with the 8 and 8, again, 1 card every week. And then we want to follow up once a month with neighborhood updates. If you look at the stuff that Nate sends out, one of my cats is going crazy right now. If you look at the stuff that Nate sends out, it's very specific to updating the neighborhood, right? You can't advertise active listings without permission, but you can say, so mine just says that there are, 8 active homes, 2 under contract, and then there's been, 12 sales or 6 sales, whatever, right? And then I list the actual sales. And so that's I'm following what Nate's doing as well. Okay. And then I have my 8 Nate stuff in there. So, having that update, people want to know what's happening, right? You can't advertise actives. You can tell them how many are active, and you can advertise the actives if you don't use the address. So you could say that there's, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,500 square feet, but you can't use the address without the permission of the listing agent. Okay. Solds are different because that's public information. And then following up. So, reinvesting 25% when you have a sale, grow the doors, right? Have more people, get more people being touched by your stuff. Okay. And then when to mail. So obviously 8 Nates once a week, and then once a month after that. Now, let's say you get a listing, right? When you get a listing, now we're going to go all out, especially for our first listing in a farm. So we're going to do just listeds. We're going to do coming soon. We're going to do an open house. We're going to door knock. We're going to canvas the heck out of that, because we know, statistically speaking, that when a home goes up for sale, 2 to 3 homes will sell in the next 90 days. Right. And so if you're door knocking, Rick, 4 times, and you're having a killer open house that you invite the neighbors to, right? You give that 1 hour window for the nosy neighbors to come. I would like to think if you do it right and you leverage the listing, you will at least get an invitation to sit down and have a conversation, right? I would think. Kyle and Janet were door knocking one time on an open house, and the people were like, yeah, we're going to be selling our house in a couple months. We love that you door knocked. And they got the listing, right? So they got the listing, and it was during COVID it was right before COVID, and things were selling really quickly. And so it was a great deal. So door knocking works. There's a guy that's a master coach with Workman, and he's been in real estate 40 years, and his son just got licensed, and they have been door knocking. And I think, like, he was sharing with us last Friday, just the experience that they've been having with that, because they're door knocking in a neighborhood where their son grew up. And so people remember him, and they're like, oh yeah, you went to school with my son. And it's just been a really cool experience for them. And I think, like, it makes me humble to think about somebody who is, very successful. Of course, they're in the California market, so they sell really expensive homes. But he's door knocking, you guys. This guy who's been in the business 40 years, right? So like it makes me go, get off your butt and go door knock, right? If this guy has all this experience and all this success, and he can go back to the very basics, right? Has anybody ever bought something from a door knocker? I have. I bought the Kirby vacuum, you guys. I was one of those who bought the Kirby vacuum. And so I love the Kirby. I lost it in the divorce, but man, that was a great vacuum, right? And so we've all had that experience. And so you think about that, selling vacuums door to door. That's freaking hard. And all we're doing is showing up and saying, hey, I'm sitting in an open house, right? We can all do it, right? And I think it's just been cool to hear Rick say that. And it's just been, like I said, very humbling for me. So, and kind of inspiring too, right? To think like, here's a guy that, can do that. So, okay. So page 7. So less information on the card is better, right? Less is better. And so we want to be kind of vague, but we need to be consistent. It needs to be professional. And Kim, it needs to be representative of you. Like I've had people hand me their card and I'm like, oh, nice picture. Oh, I hate that picture. Well, that's the vibe you're putting out there, right? And so if you don't like the picture, go get a new picture, right? Make it be representative of you. I've got, you guys know I'm doing the ramp live with Remax, and there's an agent, I don't know what market she's in, but she her email stationery. Oh my goodness, my kitty has the zooms. Her email stationery is her, and she's got like 2 or 3 dogs, and her dogs are all cuddled up with her, and it's just so cool, because it's like you just feel her energy through her email stationery with her dogs and who she is, and you just want to like go kiss her dogs, right? So make sure it's representative of you. And you guys, you can also have different vibes, right? I mean, Nate back in the day when he was riding motorcycles had business cards with his motorcycle, right? But then he also had his very professional ones with his suit and tie. So you can have different things that are representative of you. That's the beauty of this, right? And I think it's okay to be a little bit transparent and say like, okay, my hobbies, I like gardening, or my dogs are dock divers, right? It's okay to have that, because those are things that make us human and are ways that people can connect with us, right? But it needs to be professional, needs to be representative of you and the message you're conveying, okay? The sample on the screen is really basic. And I'll stop sharing and show you guys what I do. Not that, again, I'm following what Nate's doing, but I'll share that with you guys here in a second. So 5 homes sold, how many are available? What's the average list price, average sales price? And then for more details, call me. Okay. And then so we want to do this monthly after we've done the 8 and 8. Okay. And you always want to make sure this obviously doesn't have any Remax stuff on it. You always want to make sure before you start sending stuff out that you're spending money on, that Shannon approves it. There's certain things we have to do. And the new commissioner, marketing is her hot button, you guys. And so don't be that guy who gets in trouble and you've just spent, $1,000 on a marketing piece. And so there's two things that are really important. One is that you have to have each office independently owned and operated. That is a franchise requirement because we are Remax professionals versus Remax Fine Properties or Excalibur, etc. So that has to be on everything. The other thing is that the brokerage needs to be clear and prominent and larger than your name. Right? How many of us have our name really big and then underneath teeny tiny Remax professionals, right? And so it has to be the other way around. It needs to be very clear and prominent that the consumer knows who you work for and that you're a realtor. Okay. The word realtor should be in all caps with the little tiny R. Remax should be in all caps as well with the slash. And then I think personally, use the balloon. They did studies when they rebranded a couple years ago, you guys, they did a study with the consumer and they took the word Remax out and the balloon was still the most recognized brand of any brand in real estate. Okay. Kyle Clayton was a couple months ago, he told me this. He was at the playground with his son and he had his Remax shirt on and a 5-year-old said, I know Remax. A 5-year-old, you guys. So use the balloon. The balloon sells real estate, right? I'm always troubled when agents say, well, I haven't got any business from Remax. Well, do they know your Remax? Do they know that? Right. So use the balloon on all your marketing stuff. It's great to say Remax professionals, but the balloon sells. Okay. So make sure you get everything approved. You can send that just to broker@rmxprofessionals.com. Somebody's always monitoring that email and someone will get back to you and approve stuff for you. Okay. Before I go into this, let me share this with you really quick. And I think I might have some other examples too, but let me just do this real quick. Share screen. And again, I'm following what Nate's doing, so I'm not the expert here, but this is what my piece looks like. Zoom in a little bit. So I took a picture of the golf course, right? That's the actual golf course here in Prescott Country Club. The QR code goes to my KV Core site that gives them that market evaluation. And obviously I want people to know I work both, the mountains and the city, the desert. So here's the 8 and 8 verbiage. And here's the recent sales, right? So there's 9 active, 6 under contract, 7 pending, and then you put the date as of when you pulled the data, okay? And you always want to make sure you have that on there and stay away from things like, unless you can prove like number 1 or things like that, because your competitors are watching that and they will turn you in if the information's not accurate. We had an agent many years ago that happened to, and had to take a class and pay a fine. It was just a big pain in the butt. So make sure that if you are going to claim something like that you can back it up. And I would screenshot that stuff and make sure it's dated so that as the date you're claiming that, you have proof. Okay. Or just stay away from saying number 1 in general or expert, that type of thing. So this is, again, just I'm copying what Nate's doing in his stuff. And then of course I have here that I'm your neighbor. Okay. So that's an example of what I'm doing monthly. Go back to my PowerPoint here. Maybe. Okay. So this is on page 8. So again, Wireless was Susie Realtor. And by the way, you guys, Realtor, not only should it be in all caps, but it needs that little R so the materials are not correct. That is a trademark thing. We pay for that, so make sure you're using the R. And so this says advanced. I don't think this is advanced. I think that this is something all of you guys should be doing. So why list, right? The results speak for themselves. And so know your stats. And this example is that 99% of the listings sell with a 98.3% list price to sales price in 63 days. If you look at the average, right? What do sellers say? A lot of sellers will say, I'm not in a hurry, right? I want to get the best price. trust me, once that yard goes, the sign goes in the yard, they're in a hurry, right? Once they have to start making beds and animals are stressed and kids are stressed, they're in a hurry. And so if you can say, Kristen, that look, my listings sell in half the time, more than half the time in the example of the average agent, right? And we sell for more than what the average agent is. Sellers, as we know, want to work with agents who can demonstrate results. And demonstrate results better than the competition. Okay. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but above, what it says there's above results are not coincidence, they're by design. And so if you guys have this data, and again, we track it. If you have this data, use this example. Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. And if you're going to get further into this later, you can answer the question later. But I'm curious, based on what you said about finding an area that 5% turnover, if this is just not a good time to be farming, or at least to be beginning farming, when I mean, market wide, we're a quarter of that. So I don't know of any one neighborhood that's likely to develop where in an average year right now, 5% are going to turn over. I think market wide, like if you just looked at Phoenix, you would need to have about 2,100 sales based on existing new homes in the city limits, and monthly. And we're at
Right.
a quarter of that. We're at 500 sales a month in the
Right.
city limits.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be rough. I tried to, at the last farm thing, I tried to identify some farms, and I just finally had to decide on one because I liked the area, not because it met any of the criteria. As
Okay.
I could not find one.
So here's some thoughts I have about that. And yes, I agree that, I mean, data speaks, right? Where sales are down, but this is a good time to try to negotiate that stuff. All indications for Q1 is that we've just got to hunker down, right, through Q3
Right.
or 4. And I think this is a time to negotiate, right? Negotiate with your printers. Brandon Howe, who used to be with us, now he has his own real estate company. He started farming not Westbrook, West Wing, when the market was going to hell and we were literally like foreclosures were happening and everything. He went doubled down. And I remember because he was at our office, he was still at Remax Professionals at the time. I was like, "What are you doing, man? Nobody's spending money on farming right now." And he was like, yeah. So he went in and he negotiated the heck out of print because nobody was printing. Everybody had pulled back, right? So he got fantastic deals on printing. And if you look at his business, he freaking owns West Wing now, and he has brick and mortar there. And so had he listened to me, that would have never happened. But he saw a vision and he said, "I'm going to go all in because this is temporary. This is temporary situation we're in."
Sure.
Now he now
Yeah.
dominates that. So and this is temporary too, you guys. If interest rates get down to 5%, which they're speculating may happen in Q1, we're going to have another feeding frenzy. So why not get prepared now while things are the way they are so that you're ready, right? We should all be going out and studying everything happening in Surprise. There's 11,000 homes that are going to be built in the next few years. Personally, I'm geeked out about Coolidge right now with them getting 500 jobs in the next year, right? Can Coolidge even handle that type of growth, right? And is there opportunity to invest out there? So we should be all studying the market. If you sat through Tina Tamara's presentation last month, there's so much cool stuff that is happening in Phoenix over the next couple years. So why not be ready, Rick, right now? Start doing these things, start farming, start getting your name out there, start owning those areas so that when people are ready, you're the only name they think of. Right. And so thinking about the future, not, and I get it. I had this conversation with Kyle Clayton a couple weeks ago, is it's one thing to be informed. It's another to be affected. Right. And so there's a lot of us that are being impacted by what's happening in the market. Right. And it's okay to be informed. Informed is that I'm taking a hover look, right? I know what's happening, but to be affected means I'm in the trenches and I'm immobilized by it, right? And so I think this is a great time to start farming because we need to be prepared for then. But you need to be smart, right? And negotiate and make sure that you're being smart with your money and being smart with what you're sending out, right? Does that make sense?
Yes. Quick follow-up question. I'll be quiet and listen.
No, you're good.
Um, is there some other metric? For example, is there some price point or range in price points that turns typically in any given year turns over more than other price points? Maybe higher end because those people tend to be more mobile and to be able to withstand moves, the cost of a move and the brain damage and everything. is it wealthy people? Is it mover uppers? Like, I'm wondering, there's got to be a metric to lead us to a future farm that would pay off to be able to predict which areas would meet that criteria at some time. I mean, I
Well, and
guess
I
you could go back in history, but it's going to be entirely dependent upon sales quantities.
So there was a Harvard study, and I can send this out to you guys. It's proprietary
Yeah.
to Workman, but I'll send it out to you. It's the River Real Estate, and the Harvard study said that in any given year, regardless of the market conditions or interest rates, 13% of the population still moves. And you think about life, right? Um, Divorce, marriage, death, relocation, all those things happen, right? And that's 13% of the population still moves personally, and this might be a good question to ask Nate, Rick, because he is kind of the master of farming. But my personal opinion, if anybody else has a thought, jump in here. I personally think it's the starter home
Mhm.
because those are the people that they have the equity, they got to move, right? They have kids, they have growth, right? They have to move. That's my personal opinion. And we're finding like what is the average sales price in Phoenix? Between what 300,000 and 400,000 right now. I think those are the ones that are going to have the most turnover. So your people that are in luxury or in your people that are in their house that they're at 3.75, right? They're causing a cog in the system, right? Because they should be moving what they don't want to move because they're hanging on to their interest rate, right? So I think finding you got to just study it. And I don't know that I would go all Phoenix. I might try in some subdivisions or zip codes or school districts, and look a little bit more at the deeper level than just going broad stroke with all of Phoenix.
No, I get that. And I did that. I broke down neighborhoods and studied them. And I couldn't
Well,
find a 5%er, that's for sure.
okay. I was just looking at one the other day with somebody, and I think it was Moon Valley, and there was 5%. So
Oh, right
yeah, there
on.
was. Yeah, it was real close. It was real close, but it was right around 5%. So there are areas out there. So I think we just have to continue to study it and see, and that might be something. I don't know. I don't know if Jody has the bandwidth to help with that, but sometimes title companies can help too. So, but we can talk offline if you want as well about that.
Yeah. Thank you for answering my questions.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, we're not going to role play. And in lieu of time here, I want to make sure I get through everything. So dialogues, right? So this is the quarterly phone call, the move up buyer call, right? And so go through and read these, commit them to memory, right? And again, when we can ask these type of questions, it makes us sound polished, right? It makes us sound professional. If we were in person, we would role play, but we're not in person. I guess I could put you guys in Zoom rooms and make you role play that way, but we're not going to because I know how much you love role playing. Okay, so page 10. So neighborhood website content. And so this is saying it's a little bit more advanced. I don't personally think it is. You guys can add a page on KV Core, right? So this is part of what Alex does for the company is he will write content for you guys based on what you want. So if you have a neighborhood, a city, an area, right, that you're working, Kim, you had talked about working the or not the boomers, right? And that those people who are, was it boomers? Who was it you were thinking about working? I thought it was boomers. No, it was
No,
our
it's Gen
generation.
X. It's
Gen
Gen
X,
X,
that's
yeah.
right. It's our generation, yeah. And so have a page on your website that speaks to that, right? That speaks their language, right? And so we have all those options on KB Core. And you guys, that's what Alex does, is that's part of his job that he does for us. And so make sure you're taking advantage of that. Facebook pages could be another way too to do that. Tom Clayton has one for the neighborhood he's in, and it's really people check in, they'll like unfortunately a dog gets out, they'll post about their dog. If someone has a snake in their yard, like it's a very active page, right? It took a minute to get there, but it's very active. And so having stuff out there that talk about, oh my gosh, it's fall break. My stepson would never tell us in advance. He'd come home from school and be like, I don't have school next week. What? It's so you have a Facebook group, right? That says, hey, Kristen, don't forget last day of school is coming up next week in case the kiddos didn't tell you, right? Community yard sales, things that are happening in the area, things that are relevant. Do you guys see that? I think it's Toll Brothers. Did I post that on the inner circle? I think I might have. Toll Brothers is getting ready to, they're pitching one of the largest communities. Like I forget, I have the article up in my thing. I'll make sure I share it with you guys. Getting ready to pitch one of the largest communities to be built so far, right? It's gonna be like its own little city. And so those are things that you guys could be sharing information out there. The stuff on here is, anything that's relevant, right? Taxes. What was it? Was it Houston? somewhere, or no, Colorado just had a huge thing where they're changing property taxes, and it's massive, massive for people. And so they were realtors were sharing ways to contest that, because it was huge, because the growth has happened, right, and property values have gone up, so they were adjusting, and it was going to be really, really, really bad, like very expensive for some people. Okay, so having that information, how to contest it, mortgage information, how about insurance information? um a lot of people are underinsured right now, right? They bought their house for 200 grand. It's now worth 500. They only have insurance for 200. They're not insured, right? The house burns down. They don't have insurance. So that's good information too. How about the deed fraud stuff that we've been talking about so much? That's good information that we put out there too. Inspirational stories, recipes. Like I said, Barb does the Sudoku puzzle, and then any community activities. Rose is getting ready to do, I think it's the second or third year they've done it. They're doing a fall festival in the community, and they actually got the city of Surprise involved now. So they're going to have a fire truck there. They're having bounce houses, and she's got a bunch of vendors and food trucks, and they're going to have a pumpkin patch, and everybody in the community is invited. It's huge. It's last year it was really big. I suspect this year it'll be even better. So things like that you guys can be involved in. So effective marketing, right? So Nate will tell you he doesn't prospect, but he markets every day. Something goes out into his orbit every single day that lets the world know that he's in real estate. And so I think, we think about prospecting and we make it too hard, right? I mean, Kristen, people go, I actually had this conversation with someone the other day that's been in the business 5 years. I don't know how to prospect. What? Right? Prospecting is not hard, you guys. It's hi. Hi, Rick. It's Sarah from Remax Professionals. How are you doing today? How's your family? What's going on in your world? How was your summer? Can you believe the holidays are right around the corner? Right? And then they're going to say, how are you, Rick? I heard that the market's crazy. How are you handling these interest rates? And so now the conversation turns into real estate. We should be the most popular person at any party we go to, right? And so the conversation is going to go to that. So prospecting and marketing does not have to be overcomplicated. You have to ask yourself every day, is something going out in my orbit that lets people know that you're in business? Okay. So we're going to move past that. Okay, so the no do have a property call. So we got to market, right? Something needs to go out. Talking about yard signs, sign calls. To me, sign calls are amazing because that means that person, I mean, they are legit sitting in front of the house and called you off your sign. And so you guys are going to get some dialogues, greeting dialogue, labeling dialogue, justification, and then what do we need to have? We need to be able to track it, right? We need to be able to track, which you guys have a tracker inside the materials, of course, because that's what we do with Momentum, is give you everything you need. Okay, so core beliefs. We have looked at these in other classes, so I definitely think that I would be printing. Can you guys see mine? Mine's all dog-eared and highlighted. I would print this page out and I would have it laminated, right? And I would have it wherever I prospect or do the bulk of my work, or hang it in your shower. I used to have my core values hanging in the shower, so I'd read them every day. These are the things that you need to possess, right? They're not possessed. These are the things that need to be part of your DNA, right? And the mindset that you need to have in order to be successful in this business. One of my personal favorites is I live in a world of abundance. That is one of my core values I say every single day, right? Because I live in a world of abundance. And when you get skunked at an open house, right, it'll happen, Kim. Yeah, no one shows up. What do we say? I live in a world of abundance. It's okay, right? I'm getting closer to the yes, right? And then the next section here is the real estate sales beliefs. And again, you have to have these as a part of your DNA. Number 4 is my favorite. I will not convert 100% of the leads I do not generate. Y'all have heard me say it. Don't get out of bed tomorrow and wonder who needs your services. Right. That's why in the gas program, us doing these 10 calls, like it's hard. It's been hard, right? It's challenging. But one thing I have discovered, Rick, I don't have enough people in my database. Right? I don't have enough people. And so it's challenging me to go back and look at, I've been in this business 25 years. Where are all my sales? Right? So going back and making sure that the people I sold a house to, I talked to someone the other day, 18 years ago, I sold her a house. And so, and I stay in contact with her, but she hasn't reached out to me. And so we finally had a conversation. And so that was kind of cool. But it's challenged me to say, going through these 10 calls, is like, I have all these people on Facebook that I'm friends with. Why are they not in my database? Right? Where are these additional relationships that I need to have? Because again, we don't need leads. We need what? Relationships, right? Because relationships turn into business. Okay. And then the second here is buyer belief. So time reveals all. we need to have a system, right? That's what we're going to talk about on Thursday in the meeting, you guys, is having a system that works effectively with buyers so that you don't get burned, right? It really sucks to have a buyer go buy a house with another realtor, right? After you've invested time. And so when we do a buyer consultation, we talk about buyer representation, talk about all of that, that helps to alleviate that. And we have that system. Okay. Motivated, qualified, and loyal people buy homes. And then A buyers. So I'm just going to spend a minute here on A buyers deserve my immediate time and attention. Yes. However, there's gray area. We live in a second home market, right? And so if I get somebody that calls me and says, hey, we're here on a golf trip, we saw this house, we're thinking about buying a second home in Phoenix, we love coming out here, maybe might retire out here, I will go show that house. And why, Kristen? Because I want to establish a relationship with that person. And if maybe they aren't ready today, but they might be ready in 2 years. And so I will go show, I'm not going to go give them a tour of homes, but I might go show one to establish a relationship, right? And so yes, A buyers need your immediate attention, but sometimes those C buyers do too, so that we can make relationships and have somebody in the future that will be a buyer. Okay. So just my little caveat on that. So again, I would print this page out, have it, read it often, study those affirmations every day, because what you put up here is drives the results that you get from your physical activities, right? You guys hear me say that so much of what we do in this business is all about mindset, right? Okay, so dialogues. First dialogue. So typical property call. So I'm calling about 123 Elm Street. I hear agents in the office go, that house is under contract. Click. Wait, what? Don't do that. Don't do that, right? You want to be Columbo and keep them on the line as long as possible to get as much information so that you can convert them, right? And so this is where previewing and knowing the inventory. So if you have a listing, go preview everything that's around it. Know what the competition is, if there is stuff that's on the market. If you're competing against new construction, you need to know. You need to know what the new construction is doing. Because even though resale will probably still be a better value in regard to, well, these days with new homes, they're offering such great incentives. I don't know that that's necessarily true. But know that, right? You need to know what's happening, because if that listing is under contract or it doesn't meet their needs, it makes it easier to convert that person if you know of other properties that are for sale, right? Or you can immediately switch into dialogue. Have you ever thought about a spec home? Right. I have a buyer lead of mine that she's not buying until January, but she was at a party over the weekend and one of her friends was trying to get her to work with their realtor and was telling her about spec inventory. So she's texting me this morning. I told them I already have a realtor and that I don't want to work with anybody but you, but can you tell me about the spec inventory? Right. And so that could have easily gone the other way, right, with her. And so I should probably be getting a buyer representation agreement signed with her. Right. And so preview, know the inventory, right? Know what's going on, know the trends too. Know what's happening with updates, right? Does anybody know what the current color of the year is? I forgot it. I knew it in the beginning of the year, but know stuff like that, right? People will call and ask. In fact, my insurance agent, it was funny. I have him on the KV Core thing, that monthly touch, and he's every time he gets it, he goes and looks. And so it was funny because I've been watching him, and he reached out to me the other day and said, we're thinking about changing our pool. Does it make sense? Would it add to our property values? Right. And so that was a cool conversation, right? To be able to talk to him, because people will ask you for things like that. Right. And so staying in contact with people and having that information, knowing trends, right, to be able to answer those questions. So don't just hang up, right? Try to convert that lead, right? Because that's a lead that came in. Keep the caller engaged. Again, I'm not going to read all this to you, but you can see there's a couple questions that, does that fit your price range? Are you looking for a 4-bedroom home? Those are questions that keep the conversation going, right? We want to ask questions that are open-ended, so that we can continue the conversation, right? So I love this script here. I love the word financial comfort zone, that phrase, instead of what are you qualified for? And by the way, you guys, asking someone if they're pre-qualified is offensive, right? Instead, Kim, you should say, are you going to be paying cash or will you be needing a loan? It's a better way to say it. And we always said that back in the day because it was a funny, like, right? It'd be like funny, oh gosh, no, I don't have that kind of cash. And then it would break the ice. These days, a lot of people will say, yes, I do have cash to pay, right? And so it's offensive now to say, are you pre-qualified? So I love financial comfort zone because that builds immediate trust with people. That, Rick, I'm not just about selling you the most expensive home and getting the fattest paycheck, right? What is your financial comfort zone? Love that, right? And then there is, so the top part here, this is my favorite script of all the momentum scripts that we have. How would you like to use a proactive process that will ensure you get the home you want and want the home you get? Think about this. When you were showing houses, Jennifer, and you had to show, 50 houses and write 12 offers, did they really like the house they got? Right? Or did they settle? Sometimes it worked out okay, but there's a lot of people that there was a survey, I think it was a year ago. There was a survey that went out that said that a lot of people that bought during the COVID market were not happy with what they ended up buying, but they absolutely settled because that's all they could get accepted. So in my mind, does it make sense to call those people and be like, hey, still liking your house? Right? I know it was hard. Wasn't your first pick. I know we wrote 12 offers. If they've got some equity, maybe you go sell them a spec home out in Surprise, right? And take that equity and go help them buy something that they actually do like, because there's inventory in new homes, you guys. And the new home people are they're giving away the farm. There's such great deals going on. Okay. So another script, can't you just email me the information? That is the biggest blow off ever, because what are they going to do when they get the email? They're going to delete it, right? And so don't get into that space of getting lazy and emailing them. Next script is justify the meeting. So in regards to your next home, is it important that you make an informed and intelligent decision? Now, that might, depending on how you say it, we don't want to offend people, right? And imply that they're not smart. But buying a home is emotional, right? Selling a home is emotional. And so we need to be the informed person that keeps things cool and calm and collected so that they can make informed and intelligent decisions. Okay. All right. So pages 19 through 21. So you have the looker is working with another agent. So, and this is your choice, right? If you want to proceed on, but how many of you, when you've gone to Dillard's to shop for something, and the salesperson walks up to you and says, "Can I help you find something?" And you go, "Oh, thanks, I'm just looking." Right? I don't do that anymore because my time is important and I'm there to get something, unless I am actually just browsing. But I now ask for help, right? Because that's what they're there for. And so how many times do people go through an open house or, call you about a property and they say, I no thanks, I've got an agent, right? And that's just a BS thing they're telling you because they don't want to be bothered, right? So it's your choice. You can either advance with it and continue on, or you can say, okay, great, good luck with that, right? I think that I would probably advance a little bit and maybe even just ask a name and then be like, oh, that's a great, oh, Kim, great. I know Kim, she's a great agent. You're in good hands, right? And then now you
You,
can move on from it. I will
and
also ask them,
Sarah, Sarah, at our open houses, when they say that, we always get their name and then we actually call those agents.
do you?
Mm-hmm. Now, granted, at the last the last open house that Kristen did, we had 23 people out of 30 come through and say that. And I said, you know what? Bunch of lazy agents out there. I think this is our opportunity to go get clients.
Yeah, yeah. So when I do my consultation, when we talk about open houses, and I tell them, do not go in open houses without me. If you see an open house that's something you want, call me. And if I can't get there, I will call the listing agent and say, hey, heads up, my client's going to come through. I can't be there. But we talk about open houses. We talk about for sale by owners. We talk about new construction, right? And I have not, and I'll be transparent, I have not been effective at getting buyer broker agreements signed. However, I do in my consultation get the agency, market advisory, buyer advisory, all that stuff signed during that time. And I go over all of those things with them and I talk about fiduciary duties. So if someone asks them, did they sign something? They're going to say yes. Right. And then you're going to assume it's a buyer broker. Right. And that's not to say that you don't get a buyer broker. That's what Thursday's class is all about, is helping us navigate that, because there's so many changes that are happening in our marketplace. Okay. Caller's not currently ready to buy, so they're just looking. Well, that's okay. Kind of put you in my database, right? And then on page 23, you have some examples of, I think I have this on the screen. Some examples of some direct marketing, and again, needs to be branded with all the appropriate stuff. So these are not full complete examples, but you can market to first-time home buyers. We don't have homes under 150,000, so that's that probably needs to be taken out of the materials. And then we have first-time home sellers, which I think that's a target, right? Rick, if we were to talk about a farm, maybe we target people that should be selling their homes, right? That are first-time home sellers, and we can take them and help them sell. A couple months ago, Tina had said that people that own their house for at least 5 years had 89% equity. Oh, that's a first-time home seller. I could take that 89% equity, go help them buy a new home, right? And then fixer-uppers, I think that there's probably not a lot of investors in the marketplace right now. And I think Tina had even said that too, that they've kind of dried up a bit just because the market doesn't quite fit what they need as a model. And so I don't know that that's necessarily a market in this market I'm going to go after, or a niche. But I definitely think first time home sellers is a fantastic one to go after. Okay, so page 24, you have some tracking. So what gets measured gets done. So I need to track how many calls, right? How many appointments did I set? How many meetings did I have this week? How many listing appointments did I go on? How many buyers did I go on? If you want to increase your game, you need to know, right? You guys have the income goal sheet from Workman that's inside the Workman business plan. That income goal sheet's pretty awesome because it walks you through what's your financial goal, but it also helps you figure out how many appointments do you need to go on every week. And that's the metric we need to track, right? Yeah, we need to track our phone calls, and we need to track how many calls does it take in order for us to get an appointment. But at the end of the day, your success depends on how many eyeballs you look at every week, right? And how many people you get face to face with. And so tracking that and knowing for yourself, maybe it's only one based on your goals. Maybe it's five, right? But that income goal sheet, you guys can find that if you go into Workman, into the training center. I would just type in business plan. It'll pop up. You can download it. We will be talking about business plans in October because that's what we do. We spend the whole month of October working on business plans. And so we'll create that time for you guys to work on those, because it's really important that they get done by the end of the year. Okay. All right. So let me do a stop share. So additional scripts. So we have there's on page 28, you have a dialogue for just listed. On page 29, you have a dialogue for just sold. And so again, this is a farm. So when you get your first listing, you want to make a big deal out of that, right? Really lean into that opportunity so that you can create more opportunities in that farm. Okay. And then you have the phrase that pays on page 30. Oh, by the way, right? Oh, by the way. So when we door knock, right? So in my mind, there's 4 opportunities to door knock around a listing, and it's coming soon, right? Hey, Jennifer, we're going to be putting this house up on the market. Save the date for the open house. Now we have the open house, right? There's going to be a little bit of traffic on the street today. Come meet the neighbors. You can have that 1 hour slot where the neighbors can come through, right? And then now it's under contract. What did we do as the boss team to get this home under contract? Right? We paint that story, and then now it closes. I door knock again, and the phrase that pays is, oh, by the way, I sold the Smith's house for X dollars. So we're educating them about the market and the values, and then demonstrating how you're different, right? And how you can be effective in getting their home sold. And then the last page is tracking, some more tracking things for you guys. So the very last page is also tracking your farm. So how many attempts did you have? How many people did you speak with? How many presentations did you set? How many were given? How did that result in appointments? Okay, so tracking that every single week and knowing what those metrics are. And if you need to tweak, right, we need to tweak. So sometimes we need to change our messaging, right? We were talking about this with some clients. They've been watching the foreclosures, and just a little bit of an uptick of foreclosures, nothing crazy, but it's part of what they want to get in front of. And then they're in a small market, and so they have really good market share compared to like the big brands in their area. They're number 3 stacked up against a Howard Hanna and a Remax office, which is pretty remarkable. But I said we need to be different in our messaging. Debt collectors have one message, right? And so we show up, we need to have a different message in that foreclosure market. So just think outside the box, you guys. Like, how can you be different in your messaging that will get people to pay attention to you? Right. Rick said that on the guy who's door knocking, their flyer says, don't throw this flyer away. And it's a list of vendors and service providers. So like carpet paints, dog walkers, whatever, right? So it's a list of service providers that they may need in their home, right? And I love the caption, don't throw this flyer away, right? So because that's going to get someone's attention and say, well, gosh, I better not throw this away. Real quick, another story. There's a guy, and I don't know his name off the top of my head. Oh, wait, I think his name's Q. You've heard Nate talk about this guy. Young stud, went from a rookie agent to $1 million producer overnight. And one of the things he does in his farm area is he doesn't door knock, but what he does is he does a bright colored paper and he tapes it to every other garage door in his farm. And what he has found is it creates FOMO, because the neighbor that doesn't have it wants to know, why is there not a bright yellow piece of paper on my garage door? And so I think that's really brilliant, right? The other thing he does is he goes to the grocery store and he bags groceries, and that's part of his prospecting. He's all Remax branded up, and he bags groceries. And he went from a rookie agent, and like I think like 3 or 5 years, like really quick. He went from a nobody to being a $1 million earner. So kind of works. But anyway, I have to jump, you guys. I got 4 minutes before my next call. Any questions, comments, any thoughts before we wrap? Okay, no class next week. I'm taking a much overdue vacation, so I am leaving tomorrow. So we will continue the following Tuesday. But definitely sign up for Chat GPT. That is on Thursday the 14th. That is going to be an amazing class. It's on Zoom. I'm really looking forward to that. That guy seems like a total stud. So I think it's going to be a great class to help us leverage using artificial intelligence in our business. So if you guys need anything, I'm just a phone call away. Reach out. Otherwise, have a fantastic day. Okay. All right. Bye.